Dolly here. Welcome back to Gipsyrosepaperie. If you're wondering why I have these two very different covers on here, today I wanted to talk a little bit about commissions. I've been getting a few requests for commissions and sort of a lot of the same questions keep popping up. So I figured it would be helpful for me to make a video kind of explaining what I offer, what the process is, and then I'm gonna talk a little bit about how I decide on pricing, which I know is like really taboo in this community, but I'm just going to go there because I feel like knowledge should be shared, and there are newer folks that aren't quite sure how to start or where to start or how to price or, you know, how to like get that part of their business going. So the first thing that I'll talk about is just to anyone who has like a query about whether or not I take custom orders. The answer is yes, I do take custom orders. Now I'm going to amend custom a little bit and say, you know, it's more of commission work, right? So people who have approached me, and I'm sure if you're watching this, then you're likely one of those people, are people that like the style of books that I make. And so they have a specific theme, but they want it in the gipsyrosepaperie style. So when I say I do custom work, I do take into account the theme that you'd like. I love feedback. I love to hear what kind of things you like, what kind of colors, that kind of thing. But as far as like custom page by page, I want this much of this many in this part of the book and this part, that I can't do, because in how I work, I'm very intuitive. And so I use everything you give me as a jumping point, and then I kind of just let my imagination and my brain take over. And sometimes that gets me into trouble because I get really super carried away, but at the same time, that's what creates the style that is attracting people to come ask me for, you know, commissioned works. So that would be the first thing. If you're interested in a custom / commission work, just take into account that I don't do like custom page by page, this is what I want you to do type order. It's more of an artist commission. Here's the idea. These are the things that I like. Secondly, I have 2 listings for custom orders. Right now, my custom orders are out into August. And I'm sorry if you're hearing that grass cutter outside. And so right now I have 2 custom listings in my shop, and it'll say August so that everyone that, you know, is deciding on whether or not they should go for it, it's to hold space for work that I can start in August. And there's 2 different sizes, and I'll pop up what the listing looks like so that you guys know. So this listing is for the 8.5 by 5.5 inch journal, which would be this size here, and it's a hardcover. It's got a 3-inch spine, and a book in this size would have usually around 5 signatures and 120 pages. And I can show you an example. This can pack in a lot of stuff, and so for those of you that are wanting grimoires or like kind of like spiritual workbooks, I like both sizes, but this is the size that I could probably fit more into because it just has a lot more, what's the word? It's a lot more, it's a lot deeper. There's a lot more depth to it than this size. And we'll go into this size in a little bit. I'll just push this to the side. But as an example, this is my personal journal, and it's done. I wrote in it for a year, and this is a hardcover, same spine, and it's got alligator mouth, but only because it's all stuff that I put in here. So this is all my personal stuff that I put in here, and this has held up really well. The signatures are in there really well. It's got a curved spine, so when you open it, it kind of like falls open to that page. So if that's what you're looking for something that you can just really pack it in there, you're a chunky journaler, or you're someone who likes to print a lot of reference type things and you just want to stuff this bad boy, I would recommend this size, only because I've personally used this size. So that is the 8.5 by 6.5 size. And I currently have 3 slots open for August for this size. Now we're gonna get to the dark horse. I call it the dark horse of the commissions. I could barely get it in here. Let me move up my camera so that you guys can see them in their full glory. So this is the 8.5 by 11 size. So it's 11 height, 8.5 wide. And this is more of, I call this like an insert, right? It is a junk journal. It's like an insert in a junk journal style. And this size was not something that occurred to me. This was something that Gluestick Legion Craft, she commissioned one in this size from me because she had a traveler's notebook in this size and she wanted insert for that traveler's notebook. Since then, many people have watched that video and are really wanting this size. So when you are asking for this size, it's a little different. There really isn't a spine because it's just gonna be one set of paper. So for example, and so basically this is a super exaggerated version of this little guy, and it's just one set of papers that are sewn in. And so this is what you would get with this. Now I have no experience journaling in a journal this size, or using a grimoire this size. So if you're really looking at this for a grimoire or a workbook or anything like that, I'm gonna link Jen's video, Gluestick Legion Craft, down in the description so that way you guys can see what that looks like. It looks amazing because I saw her video and she's done wondrous things with it, and I'm so super proud that there's a person out there actually using one of my books for something that is so very important and special. I'll show the listing here of what that listing looks like in my shop. Again, those are open out to August. So if you are purchasing that listing, just know that it's for work that I will start in August. So it's kind of like a placeholder right now. I have 2 very different covers, and that brings me to my next point, is that I do have them listed as junk journal / grimoire or junk journal grimoire, but I don't want to isolate anybody who is not looking for a grimoire. That's just the kind of book that has been requested the most of me. You can use those listings for anything you would want. If you wanted a Christmas book or a bunny book or a woodland book or Alice in Wonderland book, or any book that you would be interested in the Gypsy Rose Paperie style, then you can use those listings too. I wanted that to be clear, is that I'm not specifically making one specific type of book. As you can see, I have one that is very dark, and then I have one that's very light and bright, and it's butterflies. So basically what I'm saying is that I'm open to all themes, and I can pretty much do anything. If there's something I can't do, I will honestly tell you, and I would refer you to another junk journaler that I know does great work, that I know could pull off that theme. So any theme that you are looking for, feel free to contact me. The third thing I wanted to just talk about a little bit is, what if you want something that's not in this size or in one of these 2 sizes? So in that case, all you have to do is message me over at my Etsy shop. You can email me as well, but I get notified of anything that comes through the Etsy shop. So if you really want to have a full consultation, then I please suggest you go through my Etsy shop. It is always linked in any of my videos as far as I can think, but it will most definitely be linked in this video, so that way you guys have easy access. So that is it on customer type information. So this next part is more for those of you that are new, are starting to get commissions, are not sure how to go about that, what you should do. And the reason I'm making this is because I had previously taken commissions and it was going really well at first, and then it just wasn't fun. I was super busy with school, so it wasn't the ideal time. So my first word of advice to anybody that's taking commissions is, like, make sure that you have the time to really fully devote to the commissions because it'll really stress you out if you're trying to, you know, create things on top of doing all your normal everyday stuff. Secondly, the other question that I get most often is, how do I price? So pricing is super personal, and I can give you kind of like the formula that I use, but as far as like, you know, down to the cent, how I charge, that's going to be a really personal decision that you need to sit down and really think about. You need to plan it out. You need to write it out. You need to calculate first, what is your baseline cost to make the product. So I'm talking about things like supplies, you know. And then because junk journaling is such a niche in the market, and we use a lot of vintage and one-of-a-kind items, you're gonna have to decide if that's something you're gonna charge for. If you use Etsy, in the Etsy seller handbook, it advises against that. It says that you should not charge for items that you are using to make your product based on what you think those items are worth. You should calculate what the item cost you. So if you find a cabinet card and you see it selling on eBay for, I don't know, 25 bucks, and you only pay $4 for it, you have to make that decision for yourself and for your customer base. Are you going to calculate it as $4, or are you going to calculate it as $25? I've seen it where both have been done, but that's, again, totally up to you. So once you figure out your base cost, then you're going to think about experience, right? Not something everybody talks about, but it's important, because a book that someone makes a year into junk journaling is completely different from someone that's a little bit more seasoned, and then someone that would be like an expert level. And what would you consider beginner to expert level? In my humble opinion, and again, this is not judgment against anybody, the way I categorize that is based on my career, which is nursing. So we consider, you know, new nurses to be, you know, anywhere from when they start to a year. So if they someone in their first year making junk journals, I would consider, based on my own personal system, I would consider them a beginner. But you also have to take into account what kind of journals are you making, or what kind of journals did you start making, and are you continuing to make the kind of journal? Because doing a traveler's notebook is a lot easier than doing like a full hardcover book with a detached spine, maybe a curved spine, maybe ledges, multiple signatures. You know, that's completely different. So that's something else you need to take into account. An intermediate person, I would say, is anywhere between, you know, the end of that first year to maybe the second year. And again, taking into account the kind of journals they were making. And then an expert would be anywhere, you know, after the 2-year mark, you know, 3-year. And then also I consider if they were making all kinds of different books, would also go into how I would consider them an expert. So based on that, you're going to want to start figuring out what your flat fee is for that, right? Because when you think about artists who commission, you know, who do freelance work, they don't charge per hour. So I highly recommend figuring out a flat fee for your expertise level. And you're gonna have to really, again, sit down and be honest with yourself about what level you consider yourself to be. Then the third thing that I consider when I'm pricing commissions is my artistry and creativity, like how much of it is being vested into this project. What kind of theme is it? Is it a complex theme with sub-themes in it, or is it like a plain, you know, straight, I want a butterfly journal? Is a lot different. And creative wise a lot simpler to process than someone who says, I want an Alice in Wonderland journal, but I only want it to focus on the darker themes, and I really want the hatter to be the prominent figure in it. That is going to be a lot more complex to process creatively than something very simple like I just want a butterfly journal. So that leads me into the fourth thing when you're taking commissions is really do not be afraid to ask questions. The only way you are going to know what your customer wants is if you ask questions and set boundaries. If there's something that you cannot do, just be clear with your customer about what the boundaries are, specifically before you go ahead and tell them, okay, the listing is up, you can purchase it. And then that leads me into payment. So I've gone through all the methods of payment possible. I've gone through pay me when I'm done with your project. I've gone through pay me some now, pay me some later. Now I take payment up front, and that has been through trial and error and from learning from things that happened. You know, I have had buyers fall through after I've completed a project and have spent weeks working on it, and then I get ghosted. So don't get ghosted, get paid up front. And when you think about it, when I order a custom anything, I pay full up front. Or I order a lot of custom items because I love traveler's notebooks, and if I find a new maker and it's colors that I like, I'm gonna buy it, and I don't just expect them to make that and spend the hours of work that it would take to make something like that completely on an honor system without me paying up front. So that's personally how I see it. Again, everything in this video is complete personal opinion, and if you're not in agreement with it, then just shut the video down. Don't leave a comment, create your own system. This is just me trying to help anyone who's new, because I know it's difficult and I know it's confusing and overwhelming, and I feel like knowledge should be shared. I feel like it's my duty to share knowledge whenever I can. So I hope this was helpful and not confusing, and I think that's everything I wanted to say. If there's any additional questions, feel free to ask me down in the comments. Hit me up on my Etsy shop. You can message me, you can email me. Also, my Instagram, I'm constantly on there. I'm posting, you know, personal stuff. I'm posting stuff that inspires me. I'm posting funny little like color stories and mood stories. So definitely go follow me there at gipsyrosepaperie right here. And yeah, I think that is it. I want to thank you so much for stopping by. I love you so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.